I thought I had it. I legitimately thought I had it. Okay, hi. Bases dropped. Finally got rid of the overlay. John here, you there, and Bart Keeler joining us at the bottom of the hour as a special guest star for the Quinn Martin production. That's your Google search for the morning. We got U.S. women's national team taking on the Lionesses tomorrow. Bart will get us ready for that, and we'll get his thoughts on the daily Yates report that we seem to be having here. And there were other revelations, and we'll probably be spending a whole lot of time on that before Bart joins us at the bottom of the hour. We'll get Bart's thoughts on it as well and go through what happened yesterday, get you ready for tomorrow, kind of run at about 9,000 miles an hour, considering that the Thursday Power Hour is a Thursday Power Hour. So wasting no time, no dilly, no dally. Let's get into the opening kickoff. And let me see if I can do this kind of sort of in a different way. I know that over time I've got to figure out how to have the QR code in the low corner, kind of like what I've got over my left shoulder with a lemon eyes. But more opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. And as you see here over my right shoulder, got the QR code, but there it is too. So that's probably the best I've looked in years. So that's your QR code that I'm showing you right there off of my right shoulder. That's your QR code for our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. Maybe if I did something like that. There's your QR code. On, off, on, off, on. Kickoff Coffee CO. You can follow them on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Kickoff Coffee CO. And thanks for everybody who has been investing, and they've been it kind of worked, Nix. I mean, because what I did is I took a picture with my phone and brought it into the system, but I got to figure out how to kind of just make it like bring it in as a lower third. That's what I've got to do. But in the interim, until I keep mentioning how to do it, I'm just going to have that as a QR code and have that be an improvement over my face very early on the morning. But once again, thanks to everybody who has been taking part in Kickoff Coffee. And right there, you get Soccer Down Here 15. You get 15% off of your purchase, and they in turn take 10% and reinvest it into the youth game. And very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. There's your QR code once again. For those of you who are watching on Twitch and wanted to see if I could figure out, well, I was going to say, bam, it is about as rudimentary a way to do it as possible. Take a picture, upload the picture, and figure out how to make sure that QR code gets seen while I'm reading the promo. So you now have official promo material. It, like I said, makes it kind of worked. It was kind of a way to make it look like it was working and figure things out. Bam, we're getting close to Friday here. It is Thursday morning, so we know that you're getting ready for things. And I know that you will please, now that the AFL season is behind us and the A-League is getting ready to go, you will be our designated A-League correspondent. So in addition to your duties with the Ukraine Premier League, you are also our guy for the A-League. So we'll keep an eye on that as well. And we'll do juice boxes for games that are vitally important when it comes to the season. Thursday thoughts, obviously. Oh, okay. So you're now 15 hours ahead because of daylight saving. Okay. All right. So you're 15 hours ahead instead of 14. So it is now 12:10 in the morning, Bam, as you are watching from Australia. So hopefully we can get you through the midnight hour and then get some rest as you get ready for the end of the regular season here in the United States for your dearly beloved LAFC. But we'll get into that in just a little bit. Let's get into yesterday. And I know that we've got folks, Tofka, I know that you wanted to redesign the St. Louis City crest. And we'll get into all of your comments. But, yeah, guys, if you've got Thursday thoughts, go ahead and line them up and throw them in the timeline, and we will discuss as we go this morning. On the board yesterday, Champions League, and that was probably one of the bigger stories of the day that we got to look at. Not a surprise that Manchester City took care of business, and in the first leg of the home and home against Copenhagen, put 5 on the board. Not a surprise. You took Holland off at halftime. You were a minus 2,000. You won 5-0. Not a surprise. Benfica PSG was a surprise yesterday, tying at 1. And after the match, apparently, as folks were walking off the pitch, Luisao and Neymar kind of got into a bit of a pushy-shovey. And Luisao is not a small man. So that was not advised, but they seem to have hashed it out by the time they got to the touchline and the tunnel. But, yeah, Luisao is not a man to be trifled with. But Benfica, big point at home against PSG. Leo Messi is ridiculous. Volume 748,000. Chelsea beat AC Milan 3-0. First win for Graham Potter, I believe, in international competition, or European competition. So, good win for Chelsea. Juve beat Maccabi Haifa. Sorry, Abby, I've got to get it right. Maccabi Haifa 3-1. It was 1-1. Then Juve scored 2 to distance themselves. We talked about Manchester City winning 5-0 at a minus 2,000. Real Madrid had to kind of hang on against Shakhtar at home. They were a minus 476. Shakhtar was down 2-0, scored one to make it 2-1, and they had to hang on there. Dortmund, big winner at Sevilla, 4-1. Leipzig beat Celtic by the score of 3-1 to Jared Smith's chagrin. And the Celtic goal, by the way, was absolutely gorgeous, but didn't have enough of that on the day. So Leipzig won 3-1 at a minus 192. Salzburg beat Dinamo Zagreb by the score of 1-0 at a minus 130. So looking at the standings in those groups, and yesterday it was E, F, G, and H. E, we figured was going to be just a mess. It still is. Salzburg at 5 points. Everybody's won a match. Salzburg's 5 points. Chelsea's at 4. Milan's at 4. -1 on goal difference. Dinamo Zagreb right now is at 3 points. Group F, Real Madrid, 9 points. They've won all their matches. Shakhtar Donetsk, 1-1-1. They've got 4 points. Leipzig has lost 2 of their 3. They're at 3. Celtic has lost 2 of their 3. They drew the other. They have 1 point. Group G at the halfway mark, not a surprise. Manchester City dominant. 3 wins, goal difference of +10. They're at 9 points. Dortmund is at 6 points at 2-0-1. Sevilla and Copenhagen right now are tied with 1 point, but the one goal that Sevilla has scored is the difference so far in heading to Europa League or heading home. And so Sevilla right now, 1 goal ahead in goal difference over Copenhagen in Group G. Group H, the draw means that that PSG and Benfica still the same. It's 7 points, 2 wins and a draw each. Juve's at 3 points. They would be headed to the Europa League. Maccabi Haifa's lost their first 3. Their goal difference is at -6. So that's where Champions League was as of yesterday. Since we're kind of bouncing around all over the place, let me go ahead and get into viewing habits and options for today, because traditionally on Thursdays it is Europa League. And we'll go ACC women's soccer on the ACC network at 8. Virginia, Florida State. Longhorn Network has Texas women's soccer. 2 to NA has Europa League. Ammonia Nicosia, Manchester United at 12:45. Arsenal, Bodo Glimt at 3. Unimas is simulcasting that one at 3 o'clock. ACC Extra has a boatload of college women's action. 6 matches starting at 5:30. ESPN Plus, men's and women's action. Men start at 7, women start at 3 and go all day long. Flow has your Big East college women's action starting at 2. Paramount Plus has the 11 billion Europa League matches starting at 12:45, and then the others at 3. Europa Conference League is also at 12:45 and 3 o'clock. So a very busy day for you if you have Paramount Plus. Argentine Primera División, doubleheader at 6, 1 at 8:30. The Brasileiro, 2 matches at 6, 1 at 7. SEC Network, college women's action, 6, 7, and 8. VIX has Europa League action, and VIX Plus has all the Europa and Europa Conference League. That gets you through your activity for today. So today's matches, getting into juice boxes. Once again, Bart Keeler joining us at the bottom of the hour. I'm just going to go straight ahead to the Europa League and Europa Conference League that starts at 12:45. Just familiar faces. I'm not going to go through every matchup because we'd be here till like 12:30 before the matches would kick off. Shamrock Rovers, big underdog at Molde. West Ham, favorite at Anderlecht at a plus 102. Let's see. That's pretty much all of the known faces at 12:45 in the Conference League. Europa League, FC Union Berlin, to keep an eye on Jordan Pifak. They're a minus 115 at Malmo. Our buddies at Sheriff Tiraspol, underdog at home, hosting Real Sociedad at a minus 147. Monaco, big favorite at home against the Turkish side Trabzonspor. Zurich and PSV. PSV is a big favorite on the road at minus 159. Manchester United, no surprise, big favorite on the road against Ammonia Nicosia in Cyprus at a minus 526. Lazio a minus 122 at Sturm Graz, and Red Star Belgrade is an even plus 100, hosting Ferencváros at a plus 285. Friendlies for the women, you have the Canada women taking on Argentina, big favorite at 130. You have Scotland at 2:35 taking on Austria. Conference League at 3 o'clock. Başakşehir on the road, big favorite at RFS. Hearts, big underdog at home, hosting Fiorentina. Villarreal against Austria Vienna, big favorite at home. You have Cologne, big favorite at home at a minus 204 against Partizan Belgrade. AZ Alkmaar, big favorite at home. A lot of home favorites in Europa Conference League, no real surprise. Ganta favorite against Djurgården, and Slavia Prague, a minus 233, hosting Cluj. We'll get to last night in Major League Soccer in just a little bit. Basel, a big favorite against Sullivan Bratislava at a minus 175. Europa League, Roma, favorite at home against Real Betis at a minus 127. Nantes, big underdog on the road at Freiburg. Arsenal, no surprise, favorite at home, minus 435 against Bodo Glimt. Rennes, big favorite at home against Dinamo Kiev. Fenerbahce, big favorite at home against Larnaca. Braga and Royal Union. Braga, big favorite at home at a minus 120. And Piraeus is a favorite at home. Olympiacos at a plus 112. Liga Profesional kicks off at 6 o'clock in Argentina. Lanús, underdog at home to Argentinos Juniors. Huracan, favorite at home at a minus 156 against Talleres Cordoba. You've got Brazil Serie A. That's at 7 o'clock. Liga Expansión. Gimnasia Boca Juniors at 8:30. Boca Juniors a slight road favorite. And you have Atlético Nacional in Colombia at 9 o'clock Eastern, taking on Independiente Medellin. Nacional's a plus 112. Okay, getting into last night in Major League Soccer. Once again, Bart Keeler joining us at the bottom of the hour. Yeah, it was interesting, to say the very least, and chaotic. And tomorrow, as a part of all of our stuff, remember, 8:45. We're back to 8:45 because of all of the action on decision day. Weekend whip around, patent pending, trademark coming. 8:45 is weekend whip around. 9:30 beyond goals, off and running at 10 o'clock with the rest of the weekend. Then we'll see if we can bring in some special guests for 10 o'clock. Last night, Columbus had the win. Tell me if you've heard this before. Had the lead, gave it up late. It's the 11th. I think it's 11th. What was the Opta number that Opta had of all of the points that Columbus has missed out on? I think it was the 11th time that Columbus has missed out on getting full points or something like that. I've got the number, and it was in Opta. So spot me about 7 seconds here, and I'll see if I can find it. Last night when the result happened and everybody was screaming at Columbus Crew, was not necessarily a surprise. So a lot of stuff on Erling Haaland and Messi and Haaland, and no surprise. And what was the Opta stuff that I saw? Where was the Opta stuff? And I know that where is it? It's around here somewhere, so hang on. Spot me a minute. Let's see. Okay. Opta Jack. Crew have dropped 11 points in the 90th minute or later this season, 3 more than any other team has dropped in a single season in MLS history. Good work, Caleb Porter. So opportunity missed for Columbus. So Columbus with the 2-2 draw, and the reason that I want to see that I want to bring in the highlights is because I want to hear how Jess and Willie Peace called the equalizer. That I want to bring up to the floor, and I want to present it tomorrow morning. But once again, Columbus had a league, blew it. Storyline of their season. 2-2 draw against Charlotte. Because of that result, Charlotte needed to obviously win out. Charlotte is out of the playoff picture, and that can be a spoiler on decision day. The other match, Miami, wasted no time, 40 seconds in Campania, chipping Gillespie, and they were off and running from there. Miami won 4-1. Gonzalo Higuain had a brace that included a penalty. So here's how things stand for all of it. Eastern Conference after last night, Miami is in at 48 points. They are in at 48 points. Cincinnati's at 46, 11 wins. Columbus is at 46, 10 wins. Orlando is at 45, 13 wins. So that's where things stand heading into the weekend involving everything in Major League Soccer in the East. So your permutations, and that was posted as well. So yeah, if you were looking for combinations and permutations and everything that could be a part of the whole thing, here's the deal. Cincy are in with a win or a draw at DC. Cincy loses at DC, Orlando and Columbus draw. Cincy is out. Orlando, Columbus are in. So you could have some collusion there. Depending on results, you could have collusion with Orlando and Columbus, which I know will make folks here in this footprint incredibly happy. If there is a winner with Orlando and Columbus, the winner is in, the loser is out, and Cincy is in. So what do you do? How do you bank on decision day in the East? And remember, those kicks, I believe, are at 2:18. It's an odd time. It's a very odd time because you want everybody to start simultaneously in the Eastern Conference. So with the kicks, you're listed at 2:30, but if you are going to the match, at Mercedes-Benz, it is a 2:55 kick in the Eastern Conference, 2:55 kick in the East for all of this action. The West will be 5:18s. So if you're going to Atlanta and NYC, and I hope you are, because it's the last game of the regular season, show up, show out, be loud, and get full points against NYC. So once again, 2:55 kick. Mike and Jason will be starting off their pregame show at 2 o'clock, I imagine, on 92.9 The Game, and they will have a full postgame show after. So 2:55 kick, everything in the Eastern Conference, and they will wait to start the second half kicks to where everyone is in line. It's not going to be just random kickoffs and things like that. So so that's where you are, 2:55 kick. And I think I'm going to have to delay our daily Yates Report NWSL update until after Bart Keeler, just because of everything that has gone on. You've got North Carolina. You have news out of Boston, actually. You have news out of Chicago. You have news out of Louisville. You have news out of Portland. That's a lot. And once again, I'll remind you and thank you for everybody who a couple days ago when we went through the Yates Report and went through all of the different points of view, thank you for putting up with that because it's important. And we're going to continue to be that in depth because it's not just a league thing. It is a market by market thing that encompasses a league, but at the same time, you have to take it case by case, city by city, franchise by franchise. And like I said, we've got news out of Boston involving the Yates Report in the NWSL. So it is Boston, North Carolina, Louisville, Chicago, Portland. That's where we'll be focusing on after we wrap up with Bart this morning. But when Bart Keeler's coming in about 5 minutes. and we'll run through all of that. So while we're here, let me go ahead and go through the timeline, and thanks for all of you guys. Okay, so Tafka started the clock on having St. Louis City doing a redesigned crest. Having had time for the newness to wear off, the thing's a mess. The text is sideways, for crying out loud. If you have to turn your head to read it, it's a fail. Redesigned before the start of 2027. So Tafka's not a fan. I wish I could put up a poll. But what I can do is I can do this. I can do can I do one of these? How can I do? Yeah. All right. Here we go. Here's the QOD. I'm going to go ahead and do a hot poll. Let's see, because it's in all caps. And let me see if I've got enough characters. Let me see if I can do this. All right, so there. And so, how about this? Here's your QOD from Tafka. Redesign the St. Louis City SC crest, yes or no? There's your ticker. Question of the day. So in the timeline, in the Twitch pitch, let everybody know what you think. What do you think about the St. Louis City SC crest? Should it be redesigned? And by the way, thanks to City and City 2 for letting us catch up with Josh Yarrow. And City 2 is chasing after a championship at MLS Next Pro this weekend in Columbus at Lower.com Field against Crew 2. A couple of familiar names there. Marco Micheletto, for those of you that follow South Georgia Tormenta, Coleman Gannon from his time with Atlanta United 2. So we caught up with City 2 to get ready for the MLS Next Pro Championship game coming up this weekend. Thanks to City SC and to City 2 for letting us catch up with their captain and get the lay of the land for what it's like to build something from the ground up. So there you go. There's your QOD. Resign the St. Louis City SC crest, yes or no? So we'll keep that up for a little bit. All right. So what else is on the board this morning for all of you guys? Let's see. Just Bam's getting ready for the party against Nashville. I know. Holland only scored 2. He's already falling off. Exactly, Nix. Let's see. So, okay. And that's right. Bam and Nix were going to try to pair up to figure out the Women's World Cup tickets who went on sale for Visa card holders yesterday. For those of you who have visas, I don't. Yeah. Commando, he is. Holland is playing like a FIFA character with max stats. Let me see if I can do 2 things at once. I can. Well, there you go. All right. So there's Commando. And Commando, I went ahead and took the minus hit on fantasy with Holland because you could only do a certain number of transfers a week and not be penalized. I went ahead and until further notice, I have him as my captain and he's starting. Him and De Bruyne. I have them both on my fantasy team. So, yes. So, please continue having the conversation. Nix, especially if you and Bam go to the Women's World Cup, we're going to need reports. Big A-League games this weekend. Melbourne City, Western United replay the final from last season. The F3 Derby, Newcastle United, Central Coast Mariners. Because we were talking about Kual last week. And, Kual meant to play for CCM, Big Blue. Sydney, Melbourne Victory. Nani. Nani should play for Melbourne Victory. Yeah, that's going to give folks a reason to cheer for Sydney FC up here. I'll tell you that, man. And for Venezia. Crew in Orlando should be a good game. And Kefsi. Higuain deserves the credit. All that Hamburglar talk didn't faze him. True. Yeah, initially, you saw a guy like Gonzalo Higuain, and he just was not it wasn't there. And we were all sitting there thinking, okay, game's past him, all those cliches, and then sure enough, the role that he was given by Phil Neville, he accepted the role, and you're seeing the benefits of all of that, which includes being in the playoffs. Chris Henderson, Exec of the Year, Neville Coach of the Year. I'll say it right now. With everything that they've had to go through to get into the playoffs, good on them. And Kefs, got to make sure our players aren't Arepa burglars this offseason. Emilio, I can understand the hatred for Columbus, considering what we hear from Caleb Porter seemingly in every press conference and every media opportunity. Last night after the match, he complained about getting screwed over the first goal. It's like, dude, we hear these things all the time. We keep hearing this from Caleb Porter all the time. And then last night, before I want to say it was before the equalizer, or it was close. There was a foul inside the area, and it could have been a penalty for Charlotte. And then the Columbus players started pushing and shoving and knocking folks around. One of the last guys that you want to mess around with is Anton Walks. And the Columbus players decided that they wanted to get in Anton Walks' face and start pushing folks around and doing all that kind of stuff. You don't want to do that. But that kind of – and then you have a substitution, I want to say, involving Luis Diaz late – and I don't even think it was late when Diaz was substituted. And you have Luis Diaz who's taking his time, and he wants to come all the way from the far side of the pitch over to the benches. And he starts walking, and he gets about 5 yards. And I think center ref was Victor Rivas last night. And then the center ref motions to Luis Diaz to go to the far touchline because that was closer. And yeah, so you have that kind of time wasting, that kind of behavior, that kind of on-field activity that you get from Columbus. Emilio, I can understand why you would hate Columbus more than Orlando. I definitely could. Orlando just being the blood feud that it is, I get it. But the way that Columbus handles themselves, much like Philadelphia on the pitch, I can definitely understand why you hate Columbus more than Orlando. I definitely can. And you are probably not the only person that is lined up in that. So that's not necessarily a wild take about Columbus. And I think that as an Atlanta fan, you probably can hate Orlando just as much as you can Columbus. And so as we wait for Bart Keeler to come wandering in, I think I'll go ahead and do the promo. I think I'll go ahead and do that. So we'll go ahead and cut the promo, and I got to adjust the music every single day. When you turn the music off, it resets itself to 50-50. All right, so here's the promo read as we wait for Bart Keeler. Eliminized Service, proud sponsors of everything SDH. QR code over my left shoulder for those of you watching on Twitch. For odor-free, clean, fresh air, one place you need to go. It's Eliminized Service, deodorizing enclosed spaces like houses, apartments, and condos. Eliminized has created a customized solution that eliminizes all organic odors, including those like pet cigarettes and food. Realtors and property managers use Eliminized Service to eliminate bad odors to help them sell or rent their homes that much faster. It's a turnkey process, makes it easy to work with said realtors and property managers. Kind to the environment, we like that. We like being kind to the environment, Mother Earth, Mother Nature. Very green way of going about things, getting rid of odors without any kind of toxic residue whatsoever, different than Febreze or our favorite masking agents that we have under the sink or in the cupboard above us. Because when you reach under the sink or in the cupboard above you and you take out that masking agent, then you're kind of just spraying it in the air. That's why they call it a masking agent. You're just masking the odor. You're not attacking the molecule. You're not attacking the odor all the way down to the molecule, like our friends at Eliminize do. Proven scientific formula that destroys it all the way down. Pricing easy one of two ways, either by cubic feet or parts per million, to come up with a price that's affordable for you, offering results in 24 hours or less. Now here's where your homework assignment comes into play, and this is where I grab my pen. Go to the website, eliminize.com, but do us a favor if you have any questions, frequently asked or otherwise. Go eliminize.com, but after the .com, go /Atlanta. So that way they know what part of the world that you are asking the questions from to have Eliminize help you with your problems. So it's Eliminize, ELIMINIZE.com /Atlanta. Eliminize.com /Atlanta for odor-free, clean, fresh air. Eliminize Service, proud sponsors of everything SDH. We'll try to get the slow fade in here to go from 14 all the way down to 0 and not have it sound completely and totally just crashing as we go down to 0. Pause the music, because if I forget to do it tomorrow, then I start the promo and it starts right there where it picked up at 14. So you got the QOD at the bottom of the screen, redesign. Nix is saying tweak it. And so right there, you got to tweak it design. Arch and Rivers make sense, Kefsey? Yeah, they do. And so don't be surprised when the schedule comes out for St. Louis City that I make it out to Centene. We might do a show out there from St. Louis next year, at least from inside a hotel room, getting ready for an Atlanta match with St. Louis City. So once again, we'll repost the link to the interview after the show. But yeah, Josh Yarrow from City 2 as they get ready for Crew 2 for the MLS Next Pro title game. That is coming up. And then Sharif is saying maybe on the QOD. Rotate the words. You could try St. Louis, both words vertically side by side. So I'll keep the QOD up for a little bit. But that is that's where we are this morning. Because, yeah, if I get still better than Montreal. Well, Bam, look at it this way. Montreal is heading back, hopefully, maybe probably sooner rather than later, back to being the Impact. BCF Montreal Impact, or be some combination of that. So the that snowflake that is currently the logo, which is what I think it is. I want to see what the rebrand, redesign, what have you, is when it comes to CF Montreal, soon to be Impact, probably, hopefully, maybe. So we'll see. We'll see what their design is, Bam, when it comes to all of the activity there. With they kind of Nix, they kind of did. Nix is asking, have they officially said that Impact is coming back? Kind of, sort of, maybe. Let me get the phraseology correct. But we'll see. But I think that they said that they're coming back. But now that I've heard the magic sound in the green room, that means one thing, and I've got to actually find the particular element that's attached to it, so I can actually properly introduce this. 2, 3, 4. Bart Keeler. Oh, brother. I mean, it is an interesting morning on a bunch of different reasons. It has been a wild week for a bunch of different reasons. Let me go backward a little bit. How much of last night did you watch, or were you trying to work or something?
I was actually working because I have an exciting announcement that I'll be making hopefully later on in the segment. So
well, are you burying the lead?
A little bit. My only thought from last night is, damn it, Charlotte. We're going to finish behind Charlotte in the standings, aren't we? And that's kind of unacceptable, even with all the injuries we've had, in my opinion.
All right, so lay it out for me. You say that sentence, but go ahead and lay it out. Why?
So, well, one, obviously they're ahead of us right now in the standings. Mm-hmm. Two, I am not confident in our ability to beat anyone. I know we have done it at home on good clip, but I'm not confident in this team. I don't trust them right now. And all they have to do basically is get a draw, and they'll finish ahead of us. So that's a little problematic, if you're asking me. Mm-hmm. They are 42 points. We're on 40. They have 13 wins. We have 10. Mm-hmm. So a draw on Saturday for them, we can't catch them. Granted, they go up to Red Bull, who have not been great at home, right. So that maybe they figure out a way to get a draw or a win on the road. We have New York City at home, a team that is capable of scoring, and we're certainly capable of giving up goals. So, it's really frustrating to watch this team. And I know we can talk about injuries all we want, but at the end of the day, this team is going to finish probably 10th and below.
Okay.
And I don't care under what circumstances you have. I can't envision that being an acceptable result from an Atlanta United team. Wait, were we discussing MLS Crest redesigns and I wasn't here for this? I'm looking at the chat right now.
It's a QOD about St. Louis City. Tafka wants to redesign the St. Louis City SC crest.
Oh, 1,000% yes. 1,000%. It's the 1,000%. Okay. I have so many takes on this crest. Okay, so one, I think the color is stupid. I think that it's not red. It is magenta. It is not red. It's magenta. And magenta is a terrible color to have to match. I think you should have just stuck with red. Make it a bright red. Don't make it the darker red like Atlanta United and a lot of the other teams in the league have. Have it a true like Georgia color red. That would have been perfectly fine. Okay. Two, stop capitalizing city. Stop capitalizing all cap city. Why are you yelling at us in a press release? It makes no sense. The city should be capital C, lowercase ty, not all caps. That is a stupid MLS level stupid marketing ploy that makes zero sense. Mm-hmm. Three, I think city as a whole is stupid. St. Louis City is just no. But I think the crest itself, the shape is okay. It is obviously not a circle, so I think that does set it apart from most MLS crests. But I think the crest itself is fine. I think the color scheme is terrible. I think the all cap city is terrible. And I think that they shouldn't have even been named city to begin with. But you incorporated the St. Louis art. That was going to have to happen. It's not the crest. It's not the worst crest in MLS. It's certainly not the one that needs redesign the most. Looking at you, Real Salt Lake.
Okay. I was going to ask, it's like you open that door, and I'm not just going to let you open a door without trying to sit there and say something about it.
Okay. I have lots of crest hot takes if we want to discuss that anytime.
Hey, that's great. Well, that's what the off season's all about, brother, is right. looking at crest hot takes and all that kind of stuff. That's the easy part. All right. So now that we've got the Bart's thoughts on the QOD and on Atlanta United off to the side, there's a match, and there's a press conference that is happening right now.
Yeah.
Where tell me if you've heard this before. Megan Rapinoe has brought out her flamethrower, and Merritt Paulson, and that's an entirely separate issue that we can get into, because back on Tuesday we spent an hour and 20 minutes on the Yates Report, as we should have.
Yeah.
And we spent specifically an hour breaking down the whole thing. And we'll continue to do so, because there's even more developments out of it today. And there are even developments in markets that have nothing to do currently with a franchise in the NWSL. But specifically about the women's national team, I know we'll circle back to the NWSL for the end of the conversation, because that's going to take up a lot of time. There has been talk. Aaron Heifetz, the chief media communications major domo for USWNT, has said that something will come out in the next couple of hours when it comes to a move of solidarity involving the Lionesses and the USWNT when it comes to what's currently going on in the NWSL. The match itself, what are you looking at from the match itself?
This is going to be an interesting match that I think a lot of people are going to want to draw big conclusions from, and we won't really be able to draw those conclusions. So what I mean is, England's missing several key players from their team. I know Leah Williamson is out. They have a couple of other players injured. Same with the US. I mean, obviously, Alex Morgan wasn't called into camp because of a knee injury. Mal Pugh is now out for family reasons. I think that England right now might be a better soccer team. And I think that's okay to say. Like, that's fine. The US is still growing into what we want it to be. So my fear is that we're going to lose England, and people are going to somehow take this as a, oh my goodness, nothing is going right. We need to tear it all down. Now,
that never happens, right? Bart.
And the reason is because they're going to say, see, we've only been looking good because we've been playing lower level competition. We haven't really done anything well. And, we finally face a real team and we get beat. Well, okay, that is a very fair assessment of the situation. I think we could all agree that this team has not produced in the way that we thought they should, especially when it comes to, we look at the CONCACAF W Championship, a lot of underwhelming performances, but we did beat Canada, the reigning gold medalists, and a team that finished third at the last two World Cups. Third in the 2015 World Cup, excuse me. a very good team. We beat them 1-0 in a final, and a final that was very highly contested, a final that was very tense, a final that Canada wanted to win. They finally beat the US. They wanted to start their own streak against us. So I think this team still has a lot to prove. I also feel like this team is still incomplete. Vlatko is still figuring out what his best 11 is. I think he finally has it, but now you've lost Mal Pugh. You've lost Alex Morgan. You don't have Midge Purse, who would be an obvious replacement. She's in a bad run of form. It's just what it is. So I think the thing that I'm looking for is just, without the individual talents that we're going to have of Morgan and Pugh and others, how does this team function as a team? Because we've seen a lot of isolation ball. It's felt very much like, a LeBron Lakers team where let's get the ball to his playmaker and hope they make a play. So we do need to see, how do we combine a little bit better from midfield to forward line? How are we integrating the fullbacks going high up the field, especially now that Mal Pugh is not playing? Does that leave room for Huerta to possibly go forward a little bit more, or depending on which side it is, maybe it's Emily Fox. So I'm looking at how the team attacks versus how our individuals attacked, which is kind of how we've been playing this for a while. But I also think England beats us, and I don't think that's like a bad thing. England's a very, very good team playing with a lot of momentum right now. And hopefully we use that as an opportunity to learn lessons.
Who are you most looking forward to seeing as Vlatko still tries to figure out what he needs to have the team look like on the field?
So I think there are two very important players for this particular camp. The first is, I think Sophia Smith needs to be a star because she performs at a stellar level for NWSL, and we haven't quite seen that on the national team yet. And we're going to need her to pick up that slack because, as I mentioned, we don't have Alex Morgan, we don't have Mal Pugh, Katarina Macario is still hurt. We'll have Megan Rapinoe, but she's not at the same level as she used to be. We don't have a Kristen Press who is hurt. We don't have a lot of attacking talent that we have had in the past. So Smith is going to need to show up. Maybe this is a time for Trinity Rodman to get some time to play and show out. But I still think it's Sophia Smith who needs to carry the offensive load. And that doesn't mean she needs to do it all herself. I think that's been the frustrating part, again, when I've watched this team play, is it's very get the ball to Smith and Pugh and hope they do something. Hopefully she combines with like a Rose Lavelle or Lindsay Horan in the midfield a little bit better, especially when Horan likes to drift out to the left. I would like to see more combination play from Smith instead of just hero runs. And the other person who I think is most important is Andi Sullivan, because we've not really had to test that number 6 position. She was up to the test for the game against Canada, which was great. But I still think that England is a much different team and better team than what Canada was or is right now. And she's going to have to prove that she can fill that void, because I got to be real honest, I don't know that Julie Ertz takes it back for the 2023 World Cup. Nothing against her. I don't know if her heart's in it right now to make a rush back. Exactly. Yeah. She's got a kid, and that's an important thing for her. I just don't know if we see her coming back. So Andi Sullivan, who is the experienced player, needs to show that she can handle that, because she has a girl coming up behind her in Sam Coffey, who has played very well both at club and recently for country.
Yeah, to your point about Julie Ertz, I mean, when you have your first child and you want to spend time being a mom.
Yeah.
And for Julie Ertz specifically, you wonder just how much. Obviously, the near cycle is something that you can just put to the side, but I know that she is a completely incredibly competitive individual. But you wonder how much she is going to devote to being a mom before she hops back into the women's national team picture.
Yeah, and that's again the question, and even more so, she took a lot of time off even before the baby, so it's not similar to like Alex Morgan or Crystal Dunn, who were training a lot, almost right up until they gave birth, which is an impressive feat. She did take a step back. Again, both routes respectable and commendable, I'm just not sure what her path back to the elite level that she was elite. Like she was one of the best defensive midfielders of the game of soccer ever. Like I need that to be clearly stated.
Mm-hmm.
So can she get back to 90% of that? Maybe, but we kind of saw that last summer before she got hurt, at the Olympics. And so that's the other thing is she just hasn't played a whole lot in about a year and a half now. I'm not confident she's back. So that's where Andi Sullivan is vital to the success of this team, because she has been a little bit of an enigma. We know that she can do a lot of these things. She's a decent defensive player. She's a decent attacking player. She's decent at getting the ball on the turn, all these things that we want her to do. She hasn't really done it a whole lot for the U.S. And again, you have a girl in Sam Coffey, who a very young, talented defensive midfielder who's balling out at the club level, finally getting recognition at the international level. It's not the end of the world that you have two sixes battling for a position, but you need Andi Sullivan to kind of you need someone to assert dominance of that position. And I think it's Andi Sullivan's to grasp onto.
Where do you think this transition / work in progress is with the women's national team, with the veterans that we have seen forever, that have maintained U.S. supremacy in the women's game, even though we know that the margins are getting smaller? Yeah. Where do you think this transition is with these veterans who are in their last dance and the young players that Vlatko Andonovski should be playing more of, because of that transitional time that you need, where we want to see a Sullivan, a Rodman, a Sophia Smith? Where do you think this work in progress is right now?
I think it depends on the position. I think positionally, we're looking at the wingers as being one of those spots where I think we fully transitioned to the young, talented attackers. I think Sophia Smith and Malpew are definitely your starters, and behind them you have Mitch Purse, possibly Trinity Rodman. Megan Rapinoe is still there because she's still, we've seen her in NWSL scoring a bucket of goals recently. Mm-hmm. So from that standpoint, I think in those positions, we've kind of made that transition. I think at outside back, and now this is interesting because we finally have Crystal Dunn actually back and playing in a camp. But I think it was Emily Fox who kind of secured her spot. Personally, I think that's the right move. I think that allows Crystal Dunn to be a more versatile player the way she is. It allows you to plug her in to an attacking midfield position if you want. It allows her to play left back if you need that as well, because she's obviously just a very talented player. But we also haven't really seen her a whole lot. She hasn't played a whole lot since coming back from her maternity leave, which is just the reality of this situation. She's probably in great shape for for coming back the way she did, but we don't know. So to me, the outside backs, you have Emily Fox, Sofia Huerta, who have, I think, established themselves as starters in those positions. Also, Huerta's not young, right? She's in the 25 to 30 age group with like a Rose Lavelle and Lindsay Horan. So to me, Lavelle and Horan are in that middle group. Then you have Sullivan and Huerta, who are also in that age range, who are now finally getting that time and experience. So I'm looking at those types of things where it's on a position by position basis. Striker, I still think it's Alex Morgan, especially with Katarina Macario out. Goalkeeper, still Alyssa Nair. I don't think anyone's usurped her. The real question is Becky Sauerbrunn finally being transitioned out for Naomi Girma, who has, again, been very good, seems to be wise beyond her years, and partners well with Alana Cook, who also, by the way, has transitioned in very nicely, partially because you had injuries to Tiana Davidson, and Abby Dalkemper has been kind of in a bad run of form as well for about a year, mainly due to injuries. But it position by position, it's been different. I think then you look at the bench, you have a lot of decent depth coming up with. You've got DeMello, who's been called in, who's been good for Louisville. Again, we mentioned Coffey, Ashley Sanchez. You've got some younger talent that's finally coming in. So I think that Vlatko has transitioned. I think he's transitioned out the older talent fairly well. Now, the question is, when that older talent comes back healthy, are they just given spots back? That's where I do question, because it's okay to say, hey, y'all, thank you for your 2015, honestly, 2011 through 2019, right? We made 3 World Cup finals in a row.
Right.
It's hard to just leave that behind. But But, I think on this team, you have a good mix of experience with Nair, Morgan when she's healthy, and even Lavelle and Haran, who have a World Cup under their belt too, and multiple Olympics. So I'm not worried about veteran leadership on this team. I think it exists. I'm worried about making sure that the veterans are earning their spots on this team, which has been something that we haven't seen from the U.S. women's national team in the past. They've kind of just been allowed to keep it.
All right. I know that you're going to be, and this is a sidebar, Nix doesn't think that they should be playing the Spain match either. And he wonders if it happens. And the reason I say that is because I'm kind of teasing you forward a little bit for a return visit either Monday or Tuesday, considering that it's Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah.
Nix, what's your concern first and foremost about playing the Spain match and wondering whether or not it happens? What do you think about that second match on the run?
Man. Clearly, the Yates report did not uncover problems specific to U.S. women's soccer and NWSL.
Right.
These are problems that persist across women's soccer, across women's sports, and to an extent across sports in general.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're seeing that on display in with the Spain players. Now, I don't know if I want to go so far to say that the Spain situation is the same as what's happened in NWSL. We don't have any real evidence of sexual misconduct like we have in NWSL from multiple coaches, staff, clubs as a whole. But it does seem like something that came out through the Yates report and through some other reporting or studies of NWSL players is that specific to women's soccer players, because that's where these studies were done, there seems to have been some sort of conditioned acceptance of verbal and mental abuse.
Well, you want to keep your job, you're just going to stand and take it.
That has happened since the youth level.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the problem that we're having. Specific to the Spain match, I don't think that you could have canceled this match on the short notice that we found out about this. You could have, but okay. Mm-hmm. This is Bart speaking from an organizational lead, not a fan.
Right.
Players expressing not liking a coach is not grounds to cancel a friendly.
Right.
Obviously, it's a little bit deeper than they just don't like him, but I don't think you could have canceled this match on short notice. I also think, and this is just from as a fan, you still have fans of the women's national team in Spain who deserve to watch their team play and deserve to watch their team play the United States, one of the best, if not the best, current women's soccer team in the world. Mm-hmm. And I do think that it would have been a disservice to those fans who had purchased tickets and all this stuff. But also, it would have been really hypocritical of U.S. soccer to say, no, we're not playing against Spain because of this, when the Yates report comes out this week and we see that we have much worse problems.
Yeah.
So from a player perspective, I hope that they make statements. I hope that they're fully explain themselves, not even fully explain, fully show off that they're disapproving of all of this, because they're the ones most affected. And if they don't want to play, they don't want to play. That's where if the players would have said, we don't want to play this match, then good for them. But from an organizational standpoint, I don't think you would have canceled it. But if the players don't want to play, I would support them in that for sure.
All right. Since you have mentioned those two words, Yates and report, let's wrap up your visit this week by going into Yates report today, I guess, basically. And that's pretty much where we are. And I mean, and legitimately, I have zero qualm about having this as a daily segment, as long as there is news to report and that that the story is being advanced. And I think that to give this story as wide a berth as it needs to have is vitally important, not just to women's soccer, but to the game itself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we've devoted as much time to it as we have. Yesterday, and literally, I went through each individual market where there was stuff that went down yesterday. North Carolina came out with a statement. A lot of folks thought it was incredibly underwhelming. Understandably so. Chicago is having, they're trying to figure out how to get Arnim Whistler disengaged from being not just on the board of directors, but having him sell the Red Stars. You have in Louisville, you have supporters groups who at last night's USL championship game put up banners saying A, you knew, B, JOC out, meaning James O'Connor, the president of the club, and arrest Holly, meaning Christy Holly, who there's some other stuff involving Christy Holly that is stunning to me, involving a lack of a coaching license. And yeah, and I apologize for giving you a migraine at 10 o'clock in the morning with all of this.
You didn't. This entire stuff has.
Then you also have in Portland the dismissal of Gavin Wilkinson and Mike Golub by Merritt Paulson, which is your fox in the hen house moment, I want to say, from yesterday. And then an interesting piece of news that came out of Boston from Alex Azzi. Let me see if I can find it quick. Alex Azzi over at On Her Turf and NBC Sports. This came out yesterday from her. Let's see. Going all the way back, apparently there was an email that was sent from a prospective buyer, 2018. A prospective Boston Breakers buyer, say that 10 times fast, sends an email to the NWSL after learning Christy Holly was in a relationship with a player. The prospective buyer asks in the email sent to Amanda Duffy, how pervasive is this problem? The sale did not go through. The Boston Breakers shuttered weeks later. In the email, the buyer, I need to know that NWSL is protecting these girls and is vigilant about preventing such abuses of power in the future, end quote. That's the kind of, and from Alex Azzi, that's the type of person you need leading a team. Instead, they walked away because they did not get an answer. Christy Holly fired for cause in August of 2021, but he's not in the Safe Sport database because, and once again, this is Azzi, not in the Safe Sport database because he never held a U.S. soccer license. According to the Yates Report, Holly never held the requisite license to be a head coach in the NWSL, not in 2016, not in 2021. 2016-17, the U.S. Soccer Federation had conversations about how to bring Holly into compliance, but those, quote, fizzled when Sky Blue asked Holly to tender his resignation, end quote. 2021, Holly and the USSF discussed holding a, quote, small group session for Holly. He was fired before he completed the course. For Richie Burke. Burke's U.S. soccer coaching licenses appear to be active, and his name is also not in the Safe Sport database as well. And Azzi clarifies, for those confused about how an unlicensed coach can coach in the NWSL, the Yates Report explains that, quote, all coaches must hold a USSF A coaching license within 2 years of appointment. Then it goes on to say U.S. Soccer hasn't consistently enforced the requirement. For nearly 8 of the 9 years Rory Dames was head coach of the Red Stars, he did not have an A license. Instead, the NWSL applied for and received a waiver from U.S. Soccer for 8/9 years. This is systemic. That's the only word that I can use.
It's the only word that stuck out to me through the Yates Report was systemic, right? Is that this is a systemic failure.
It's disappointing. It's angering. It is.
Yeah.
Okay. Go for it.
So one of the things that I think comes up to me when I see all these reports.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen throughout NWSL's time that this is not specific to male coaches. So I'm not saying that this is only a men's coaching problem, a male coaching problem. But we have seen a culture created and perpetuated by male coaches of verbal and mental abuse of young girls. Roy James was the owner and operator and head coach of a very large and expansive women's youth soccer program in the Chicago area, which is why he got the job at Chicago Red Stars. He still is the owner of that today.
Yep.
So we're talking about a wake-up call for U.S. soccer that has never happened. And it's something that Jason talks about all the time. U.S. soccer needs to start acting like a big boy organization. You aren't like, we're not operating out of someone's basement. We're literally moving out of a house, finally.
About time.
It is time for U.S. soccer to treat itself like an actual organization. However, this is not specific to U.S. soccer. This is a problem with sports organizations throughout the United States, and I would venture to say throughout the world.
Right.
Unfortunately, and I will say this because I went through safe sport training during my referee licenses, which, by the way, I have to do, but yet I have to do that every year. Yet we have coaches coaching professional players who don't have to do that.
Yep.
Whatever. Collegiate, by the way, also. We have college coaches that also do all this crap. The unfortunate reality is youth sports is a fertile ground for people like the Roy Dames, Paul Riley, who should be never allowed to be near people ever again at this point in time. Christy Holly as well. Like it is a breeding ground, or at least a fertile hunting ground is maybe a better way to put it for people like this. They see these as opportunities to manipulate people, to create systems through which they cannot be held accountable. And that's really what this comes down to, is there is not a system of accountability. There's no system in which I can truly report someone and trust that it gets done. And that is a failure of the safe sports system, which has been time and time again brought up to be like, I mean, Allie Rainsman said this back almost, 10 years ago. She was like, this is not it. And we still continue to say, no, we got this. This is good. There's a lot to digest and break down through this report, but at the end of the day, the word you said was systemic, and it needs systemic resolutions, and it needs to, the problem is you can't allow the people who have been the problems to remain in charge, right?
Yeah.
Merritt Paulson's got to go. I'm real sorry about it. He has been, because this is not even just a Thorns problem. He's had problems on the Timber side. And we talk about, I forget the player's name who had the domestic violence issue.
Andy Polo.
Polo, thank you, Andy Polo.
Yeah.
Where we saw how they treated that. This is clearly an issue of Merritt Paulson not thinking and believing that these issues should be treated with severity or urgency. It seems like everyone's out to protect themselves, which is an understandably natural reaction. But the best way to protect yourself is to protect the people who are being hurt. Because it very well could be you. It very well could be your daughter. It very well could be your son. And again, I think this has been something that has been built and perpetuated by male coaches, and unfortunately has been carried through a lot of female coaches because that's the way they've been conditioned to be and interact with their sport. Obviously, bad people are bad people no matter what their gender, race, ethnicity, whatever.
Yep.
But, it's, to me, there seems to be a clear problem of you have men who have been in charge of these situations who have abused not just their power, over these people, but abuse their positions within the system as itself, right? It's not just my team. It seems to be within the system as a whole. This is a chance for NWSL, though, to reinvent and relaunch itself. You have sponsors who have been very clear about the fact that they're not happy with this.
Yeah.
And you can't afford to lose sponsors like Budweiser. You just can't. Clearly, Budweiser wants change. And I'm glad they're putting pressure on NWSL to make changes.
Tillamook wants change locally with Portland. They're like, change has to happen or we're
exactly.
out.
We have local sponsors. There's one from Louisville as well. If you're like, this is what I would say to these people. If you're upset, if you're worried that, oh, well, we don't want to do James O'Connor or Merritt Paulson doing Gavin Wilkinson bad by, firing them when they've been loyal. To whom have they been loyal?
Themselves.
They ain't been loyal to you.
Themselves, their system, and their contacts. They
have not been loyal to you because they have damaged your organization by harming. If you're an owner, these people have harmed your assets, be it the players, the brand, and the league as a whole. And they got to go. I'm sorry. Like, you can't keep them around. And statements like what, the statements like what the Courage put out, who, by the way, y'all are a big part of this too. Like, somehow just missed that completely from your statement. It's not good enough. But if you're MLS, you need to be looking at this too and say, okay, again, you're looking at Merritt Paulson, who needs to be evaluated. But as a whole, MLS needs to say, okay, you need to realize this is not a women's soccer problem as a whole. This is a sports problem. How do we, as a league, with now an expanding academy system and influence on men's and women's youth players, by the way, because a lot of these also oversee some of the women's academies. How do we ensure this doesn't happen?
Steph Yang, yesterday, per the Yates Report, Sky Blue exec says after the Christy Hawley hiring, quote, I spoke with James O'Connor, Christie, and certainly did not give him a glowing review, end quote. Alerted Ed Nalbandian, who, quote, recalls Brad Estes confirming that he did not understand Mary's reference to have been a positive one. Mary Smoot recalled telling Estes and O'Connor that the fans loved Hawley, but the players did not have a positive experience. She noted that Estes and O'Connor did not ask any follow-up questions, page 151. Steve Malik agreed that an incident in which two players were asked to kiss is completely unacceptable for a national team coach and disqualifying, but expressed his view that it did not disqualify Riley from leading an NWSL club. Yates Report, page 82. Per the Yates Report, pre the January 2017 purchase, Kurt Johnson says Dan Flynn told him about the allegation Riley had players drinking in his apartment and suggested players kissing another woman. Malik says Paulson told him Riley exhibited bad judgment. In 19, Malik says Paulson confirmed the kissing incident. That's the Yates Report. I'm not making that up. That is from the Yates Report itself. Remember, this is 200 interviews plus that were put into this 137-page report. And I have mandated, Bart, that we don't have an SDH book club, but that the Yates Report needs to be our first book in the SDH book club.
Yeah. And I think that situation just kind of hits on ahead the systemic issues of.
I mean, yesterday, to give you another example, going back to Louisville, we mentioned the 3 banners that the supporters section had in the end zone. Lou City had a match last night in USL Championship. The assembled media were given quotes by players. There was no press conference. Mm-hmm. There was no active press conference to put a microphone in an individual's face, whether player, administrative, or what have you. The local assembled media were given quotes from the match last night in the USL Championship. That's not standing up for yourself when you need to. And James O'Connor, and Lou City and Racing Louisville, they put out a statement as well, and James O'Connor attached his name to it. They apologized to Aaron Simon. beat.
I mean,
3
about time.
Yeah. Not about anything else and nothing overarching. Just the fact that they apologized to Aaron Simon, didn't apologize to anyone else or for anything else like Christy Holly. Just that. That's all they did. And David, this is, like I said, David, this is going to be, and I'm in the Twitch pitch. David, this is going to be something that we're going to talk about a lot because we need to. From a journalistic standpoint, which is my heart and soul. That's what I've always prided myself to be. As a journalist, you are supposed to be a truth seeker, a storyteller, and a troublemaker, sometimes all three. And right now, you've got to be a truth seeker, you've got to be a storyteller, and if it means we got to make a little trouble, let's make a little trouble. Because, frankly, that's what this story is. And when you look at everyone who has devoted their time, I mean, Bill Oram at the Oregonian and Oregon Live, he has been on fire the last couple of days. Sally Jenkins, you don't want to get Sally Jenkins mad. You don't want to. Nancy Armour at USA Today, you got her mad. You don't want that kind of heat, and you've got that kind of heat. It's now what you do about it. And we have to, right now, for the sake of all of these elements, where Merritt Paulson is concerned, I think it's easy, and Arnim Whistler, the NWSL side of things, I think is an easy one to parse away from a Major League Soccer side. You're getting into Deloy Hansen territory, and that's your required reading for today. That's your Google search for today, kids. But right now, and probably the idea that it was discovered yesterday that Merritt Paulson gave Gavin Wilkinson a 3-year contract extension while the Yates investigation was ongoing.
When we knew that he had been terrible before. We didn't need the Yates report to tell us that Gavin Wilkinson was a bad person and unfit to lead people, not women, people. That's what I just keep going. Like,
breathe. Yeah.
People. Like, he has proven to not care about the well-being of human beings. Period. Not females, not human beings. And yet you're making him a guy who ultimately is in charge of people and their well-being. That's the whole freaking point of what he does as the president of a soccer organization, as an executive in this,
as an executive in Peregrine, which oversees all of the different aspects of Merritt Paulson.
Over both organizations, both of them.
Yeah. And I think before the Gavin Wilkinson contract extension information came out yesterday, and I would have Oregon Live as one of your bookmarks. That's your PSA for today. OregonLive.com. That's the Oregonian newspaper. Have that as one of your bookmarks on your computer. Before the information about Gavin Wilkinson and the contract extension came out yesterday, I would have said that it would be difficult to approach things on the MLS side for Merritt Paulson. NWSL side, I could see it.
I don't think
very, very, very easy. But when Gavin Wilkinson's information came out yesterday, I think that opened your door.
Yep. Yeah, because he's in charge of both organizations. So it's not hard to say, well, he's managing this side poorly, harmfully to many extents. He certainly can't be doing the other side well either, right?
Yeah.
At the most, MLS could have opened an investigation into Gavin Wilkinson himself, right? Of like, do you need to be the president or overseeing of both of these sides of the organization? Merritt Paulson, I think the problem that I'm having with him is like, I don't think he dismissed these two because he wanted to. And that's, again, where the issue comes down to. This is not him doing the right thing.
I think a lot of this has happened because you're sorry because you got caught.
Right. Which, I mean, don't get me wrong. We've all been there, right? Like, as a kid, you're sorry that you lied, not because you lied, it's because you got caught lying, right? Like, oh, I told mom and dad that I did my homework and I didn't. You're sorry that you got caught, not that you lied.
Yeah. So that's where we are out of Portland. Yeah. Chicago, Annie Costabile at the Sun
Yeah.
Times, and that's your bookmark there. Annie tried to get a response from corporate sponsor CIBC, and she screen capped the response from corporate that misspelled her name. Hi, Ann, comma, instead of, Annie. And yeah, so CIBC has yet to give any kind of a response in Chicago. The executive board is trying to find a way to remove or have Arnim Whistler sell.
Yeah.
So that's I'm trying to think of my markets today. Boston we covered, Lou City we covered, Chicago we covered, and Portland we covered. I think those are the markets that we had today. I have kept you long. I have kept you long
I have
past.
I have two closing statements, so
Okay.
we can get out of here.
Go for it.
The first is that the NWSL has proven to be an impressive business venture of late.
Mm-hmm.
We saw from the NWSL Challenge Cup how successful this league can be and how partnership with this league can make you successful. And I would encourage the NWSL to not hold on to what has, quote, got you here.
Yeah.
Because the future is in front of you and can be bigger than what it is now.
Angel City. Absolutely.
Angel City is a great example. Despite some of their issues, San Diego Wave is a great example. And despite the issues we've talked about, Portland is a great example of the support these clubs can have. Washington as well.
Mm-hmm.
You have a product that is worth partnering with, that is worth investing in. It's because of the players. Don't ever forget that. The players that are in NWSL, the players that have made up the U.S. Women's National Team, are what's special, not the people leading it. That said, you can get special people to match that vigor and that spirit who want to invest into this league. You don't need guys like Paulson and Whistler. You don't need guys like Malik, to be quite honest, who's been quite disappointing with the courage. There are people who will want to invest in this league, I promise you. There will be brands that want to invest in this league, I promise you, if you do the right thing.
If
my last piece of news is actually fun, though, so allow me to leave that aside.
Aren't you supposed to break some news before you?
I have some slightly breaking news. So I can officially announce that the American Outlaws Atlanta chapter will be hosting our USA England watch party for the World Cup in November at the new Wild Leap Atlanta location, located on Ted Turner in the old Norfolk Southern building that is now the Centennial Yards South building. Wild Leap is a Georgia-based brewery. They're headquartered in LaGrange, but they're opening up a brand new tap room here in Atlanta. It is a 2-story venue with an outdoor patio seating as well. And we will be there from 12 to 5 on the day of Black Friday, November 25th. We'll be there for the USA England game. We'll have more information coming out tomorrow about how you can. We will have to ask you to pre-register because there is slightly limited capacity for this event, and we need to make sure that we're not going to go over it because we don't need the city of Atlanta getting too mad at us. But we're really excited to partner with Wild Leap in this venture. Shout out to the Flood Project and Scott Flood for making all this happen and doing a lot of great work. I know, John, you don't need any reassurance that he's a great person and a great organization, but shout out to the Flood Project for all their work, and also the team with American Outlaws that has worked hard to put all this together, get the permits in, get the plans in. But we're excited to be at Wild Leap for this this party that hopefully will bring together the entire soccer community of Atlanta. We'll have all 6 Atlanta United supporters groups represented there. We'll have some sponsors within the soccer community and outside of the soccer community. We will have some former and possibly current Atlanta United players as well there. So it'll be fun. I've also heard a rumor that somehow John will be dragged there, or at least Jason will be dragged there.
Yeah, I got high school football that
day. But it'll be a big old party. We're going to have a lot of fun. So we'll be at Wild Leap for the USA England match. We'll be at Fido Midtown for the other matches, and they'll be open throughout the entire World Cup, showing all the games there. So we have no shortage of space for you to go watch World Cup games this November and December. But I just wanted to make that announcement. American Outlaws and Wild Leap, November 25th.
Mazel tov. Nicely done. And so keep an eye on all of the media that is social at Bartimus Prime 19. So you can get all the info at American Outlaws Atlanta. Very, very cool stuff for Black Friday. So get your shopping done and then go over and hang out.
Exactly. See, it's a 6-minute walk from the Garnett MARTA station, a 10-minute walk from the 5 Points MARTA station. So you can go avoid gunshots at Lennox and come down. And
wow.
I'm joking. I'm sorry. I live in Buckhead. I can say that.
I've lived here all my life.
I know. But yeah, it's going to be great. I'm excited. It's a great venue. I'm really excited for what's happening in South Downtown. This is the first of the Centennial Yards overarching development. So we're excited to be a partner with that.
All right. So are you coming back Monday to preview?
Yeah, I'll be back either Monday or Tuesday. I'll let you know. We'll have some Atlanta United to talk about, I'm sure, over the weekend. I do encourage everyone to go to the final match. I know there's some people that, want to maybe not go, but go to the final match. The players deserve it. I will say the players themselves have given us a lot this year, and they deserve our support. Despite some of them being slightly diva-ish, they all deserve our support. So make sure you're at the match.
Yes. So once again, Bartimus Prime 19. And so since he is here at the end of the show, I'm going to say mucha plata, y'all. And since it is the end of the show, that means I get to do this.